Hey guys, it's the Sadknight here, and we're back with another episode of the Legend of Vox Machina, the animated series by Critical Role. And today we're doing episodes 1 through 12, all Easter egg breakdown, where we go over things that were hidden within the episodes. Extreme spoiler warning, this information will go beyond just a season 1 of the animated series, and we'll talk about stuff from campaign 1 and campaign 2 alike. So if you guys don't want any kind of spoilers, I'd watch a different video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and please enjoy. First up, we have the hidden D20s. First, we have one hidden here in the glare of light. The next one's hidden here on this golden chest. The next one is this boulder about to crush Vax. The next one is this little green rock hidden inside the chest of Delilah. The next one here is on the Critical Role table. Now this one also obscurely looks like it might be a D8, but since this actually was based off of their original table that actually had the D&D 20 on it as their logo, it is most likely a D20, but it does look warped like a D8 as well. The next one right here is in Scanlan's eyes. And then afterwards, we have some other types of dice, which includes the D8 here that imprisons the characters from Gilmore's shop. We have the Critical Role logo, which is a D20 with a sword going through it here on the door. We have above the door actually is a set of the rest of the dice. You can see a triangle for the D4, you can see a square for the D6, and you can see a diamond for the D8. So most likely it's just a complete dice set, including the logo. This right here is the banners, where you can see the same situation where you have a D20 and it seems to go up through all the dice. Next we have the Wormwood dice tray, which not only has a D20 in it, but has a complete dice set, but is also the actual box that holds the dice that you roll them in. These were used by Critical Role, and they actually, in the middle of their streams, like during the commercial breaks, would actually give away a bunch of Wormwood dice trays. Also, we have the Wormwood Critical Role gaming table, which was a gaming table specifically designed by Wormwood for their streams in Campaign 2. Next, we have the NPC Matts. Matt Mercer is the DM for Critical Role, and because of that, he is every character besides the main players in the Critical Role world. Because of this, he got cameos where you could just see random NPCs that look like him, including this one right here getting peed on by Scanlan, this one right here who's getting his ale stolen by Grog, this one right here who's the checkout guy for all their weapons. This one right here is Wraith Matt. Next we have a one-eyed Matt with an eye patch skulking in a corner right here. In the next episode we see the one-eyed Matt getting killed by a giant. In this one we see a regular villager Matt looking up at the Dorolo symbol. Next we see a bearded priest Matt. And in the final episode we see the NPC Matt that was looking up at the Dorolo symbol show up again here in this scene. Next we have the one-shots. Grog's one-shot, Bunions and Flagons, was when the characters actually played D&D within the D&D world. Since these characters are characters within the D&D world playing Dungeons & Dragons, I can only assume that this is the in-world version of Dungeons & Dragons known as Bunions and Flagons by Critical Role. Next we have Sam's one-shot, Barroom Blitz, which took place in the Crass Sailor, which we can see on the sign on the door here. Next we have a possible example of the narrative telephone game side videos that Critical Role makes, where Grog did a video about his workout regimen. Next we have the players' special combo moves, where they would work together to create special attacks, this one being the fastball special, where Scanlan's hand throws Vex in this example and throws Grog in this example. We also have a possible example of the combo Flutternutter, which was designed in Campaign 2, where you throw explosives and someone shoots it to blow people up from a distance. Next we actually have some cameos from several of the people who worked for Critical Role during the animation process of this series, including the Titmouse founder, executive producer Chris Pronowski, art director Arthur Loftus, assistant character designer Luke Ashworth, supervising director Sung-Jin An, chief operation officer for the Critical Role Business LLC, Ed Lopez. This was actually confirmed by Travis to be Ed Lopez in the watch parties. However, it also does look familiar to the Ford bust that used to hang out in the Vox Machina backgrounds that was actually created by a fan. We also have the lead character designer, Bill Borrasa. Next, we have a possible example of the stat element rings that were used by Matt Mercer when he took water bottle rings and placed them over the minis to indicate that they had status effects on them. The first possible example right here, someone pointed out that the spell being used caused the wraiths to go blind, and so Grog is beating it with one of these rings to show that it has a status element. The next is a possible example right here where you see the ring actually fall over the suit of armor to show that it has a status element effect, although I'm not aware of what status element effect it has on it. Next we have some of the Kickstarter designed characters, including the Tavern Keeper, who was a changeling. Next we have the Kickstarter designed Equitoa, which was a unicorn snake drawn by the cast. Next we have some hidden items, including Vax's Witch's Hat, which is an item that she received from Sam Riegel's character Scanlan, when she actually obtained a witch's broom and he wanted a hat to go with the outfit. Next, we actually see Vex's witch broom in the counter over here, and we see the smut novel known as Tusk Love from Campaign 2 with the two of the Campaign 2 characters on it, Ford and Jester. Next, we have Scalen's Triceratops form, a foreshadowing of the form that he will take in future episodes, and we have the Crimson Weasel, Sprinkles, who is the pet of Jester in Campaign 2. Gary Gygax Sandal. Gary Gygax is the creator of Dungeons & Dragons, but before that was a cobbler who used to make shoes, until he got a call that his game was profitable enough to support him without having another job. In the middle of a project, he quit his job and only created one sandal. This sandal was put in a glass case and has been passed on from person to person at different cons as a type of holy symbol of nerdom. Next, we have Beauregard's skull. Beauregard is a Campaign 2 character, and this might be a reference to her because the skull's hairstyle seems reminiscent of her character, with the top knot ponytail and the hair swooping in front of her face. Next, we see an oversized flask that is most likely an example of Sam's flask. Sam Riegel always has a large size beverage container during his campaigns, and since Campaign 2 his character wielded a flask, he got a giant sized version of it for himself. Next, we see a possible example of an immovable rod sitting here in this case. Next, we see a possible campaign setting reference to Dragonlance, as this is a Lance of Dragon slaying, and there is a campaign book in Dungeons & Dragons called Dragonlance. Next, we see a possible example of the alchemy jug used by Grog to eat mayonnaise out of. Next, we see that this painting has the name Jameson at the bottom of it. The NPC artist known as Jameson actually will be seen later in this series being hired by Scanlan Shorthall to make portraits for himself. Next, we see a possible example of the communion item that ended up with the incident known as Bullsgate. Liam's character in the next campaign, known as Caleb, had an incident with a character who found a bowl that could possibly commune with Tiamat, and he didn't want her to have it, so he argued with her until the bowl was eventually destroyed. This incident became known as Bullgate, and that bowl that's being represented here might be an example of it. In this moment, we see this young child ask Vax if he is a wizard, which might be a reference to Liam's second character in Campaign 2, the wizard Caleb. Next, we have an interesting one with the 1.0 written on this tombstone here. Very few things associate in Critical Role with 1.0, but one of them was the construct known as Doty, who was the automaton that worked alongside Tarrington Darrington later on in the series. He did get destroyed at one point and got a 2.0 and even a 3.0 and beyond. The interesting thing, though, is of course as a construct wouldn't be buried in a cemetery, so this is kind of an interesting thing to note, if this is correct. Next, we have a possible example of the Githyanki skull that the characters find later on in the campaign. Next, we have a possible example of Thordak's malformed offspring. His offspring's eggs actually had a translucent, like reddish-orange liquid similar to this, and these do seem to appear to be forms of malformed wormling dragons. I cannot confirm this, but it does look kind of interesting, and this is the first thing that it invoked in my mind when I saw it. Next, we have a possible foreshadowing of Grog's beard, as the person who is being executed and representing Grog has a beard. Next, we have a possible example of the Hamburger Helper episode that dealt with giving your players non-magical item rewards like giving them a keep. However, the crew already had a keep by the time that episode was made, and so this might not be a reference, but it was just kind of a cool thing to note. Next, we have a possible example of one of the D&D items known as the Hermes Winged Helmet. Next, we have a possible example of the Horn of Fog used by Scanlan. Here in the background, it actually looks like this might be one of the Horns of Orcus, which was a magical item that the characters found in Campaign 1. In this moment, Grog says the safe word is Chenga. However, in the original streams, the players were commonly known to use the word Jenga, but for copyright issues had to change it. Next is a possible example of the moment when Jester fell from a tree and disguised herself as a person wearing a leaf costume. As you can see, a leaf prominently displayed in a case right here. Also, interestingly enough, there's a carpet behind it, which could be a reference to the flying carpet that they once had in Campaign 1. This is an example of Sam's live show outfits. He would wear very outlandish outfits that would be the center of attention with giant cod pieces on his groin. However, also interestingly enough, this cod piece represents the flag of sexuality that Scanlan actually represents. Interestingly enough here, this map right here is actually just a direct design copy over from Matt's original design map of the Whitestone area in the original campaign. In this moment, we can see a pigeon fly in as a reference to the meta game pigeon. They would be when players would try to give each other advice across the table when their characters were nowhere near each other at the time. This banner right here represents an incident that happened in the stream that was an adventure that they went on where they actually disguised themselves as cows to try and get taken by a rook. This moment is a reference to when Scanlan has his magnificent mansion and the only thing that the servants serve is chicken, so everybody's diet became chicken for a long period of time while in his mansion. This is a callback to Scanlan's blue scrying poop, where he actually had Gilmore design a scrying potion for him. He drank it, and then he pooped up to 3 times, producing blue poops that he could actually see through the scrying spell. In this moment, the characters are actually seated in the exact same order as the cast did in the original stream. This moment is an example of the sixth barrel of the list. Originally, the players didn't know if Percy was suicidal or not and assumed that the sixth barrel might actually be for him. However, it was later revealed that the sixth barrel was a representation that vengeance never ends and that the list would start again, which was actually confirmed by Matt that after he finished the list, it would actually start a whole new set of names. In this moment, we see the shadow of the gun being pointed at his head to give the audience the same impression that the barrel might be for him. Next, we have a possible example of the symbol that represents both Tiamat and actually the Chroma Conclave, as Tiamat is a 5 different colored headed dragon and the Chroma Conclave is 5 different elemental dragons, all working together. Next, we have a symbol of the clasp drawn on the wall right here. Next, we have a possible example of the Clovis Concord symbol on the suit of armor. In this moment, we see a Lord of the Rings reference with the characters Frodo, Legolas, Gandalf, Aragorn, and Gimli preparing to fight an unknown enemy that turns out to be Brimscythe. And finally, we have a very fun one with the 3 references this character makes. He mentions a murder hobo, which is a slang term for characters who go around killing NPCs for random things, including stealing their loot and just gaining XP. We also have a reference to the Death Dealers, which is a band of mercenaries in the 4th E edition of Dungeons & Dragons. And we have Torian the Butcher, who is a character in Warhammer 40k. Hey guys, it's the Sadknight here, and I wanted to play a fun game with you guys here at the very end. In this picture, you can see that there's a bunch of possible references, including that piece of amber in the corner, which is possibly a reference to Caleb's Vault of Amber. And there's also that Masquerade mask, which is possibly a reference to the Vampire the Masquerade one-shot, or even the episode called Masquerade in Campaign 1. There's a whole assortment of different things hidden in this picture, and I wanted to know what you guys thought they might be in the comment section below. Please enjoy, have fun, and thank you for watching.